The so-called term reverse pivot is an often used term in golf instruction and a widespread backswing error amongst amateurs. We do not fully agree with the demonization of that term, since we believe that the essential movements that lead to a backswing position like this are fundamental elements that occur in every elite golf swing on the planet. It is more about the timing and the intensity with which these motions are performed. In this video we will define very precisely what a reverse pivot is, what exactly these fundamental motions are, and how to deal with a reverse pivot in practice. Let's get started. Generally, a reverse pivot is diagnosed when players excessively sway their pelvis away from the target, that then leads subsequently to an overextension of the spine and partly to an over-tilting at the top of the backswing. Usually that pattern goes hand in hand with an underrepresented amount of rotation in both upper and lower body and a collapsing arm system. For years, players have been told to maintain the forward bend during the course of the backswing and make sure that the spine does not extend at all. That couldn't be further from the truth with reference to what happens in most elite golf swings. Beside the great importance on the structure, moving the spine from an extended position back into flexion again is a process that is creating force and thus speed. Does that mean a reverse pivot is a functional backswing pattern? Certainly not. Of course, even fundamental pieces can be overdone and lead to unfavorable positions. Nevertheless, what's very important here to understand is that even an excessively swayed and tilted pelvis, as well as an extended spine, complemented by more rotation, can potentially lead to a very functional backswing position, as you can see here. To answer that precisely, let's have a look at what happens in most elite swings and use that as a benchmark. What is certainly not the case is that elite players sway their pelvis as excessively and as long away from the target during the backswing interval like players that are reverse pivoting. Elite players sway off the ball minimally around 1 to 3 inches from setup to shaft parallel and are already recentered and back in between the lines at the top of the backswing. That minimal sway does not mean that they shift their whole center of mass to the trail side. The pelvis starts to tilt with the beginning of the takeaway and is in fact inclined at the top of the backswing, with the spine being extended to around 0 degrees. While extending and tilting, elite players also perform a balanced amount of rotation simultaneously during the course of the backswing. The exaggeration of motions that are contrary to the movements of a reverse pivot is not only a key principle in technical training in general, but is also absolutely necessary here to create a sustainable pattern transformation. Although, as we discussed, minimal sways, pelvic tilts, and extended spines are fundamental elements of elite backswings, players that suffer from a reverse pivot very often need to feel zero sway, high rates of rotation in both upper and lower body segment, and a turn in flexion. Very often players need to start with a dry drill without a ball and a club in their hands, putting both hands across the chest, bending forward like they would in a normal setup, and from here feel like that the lower body is working towards the target as the left shoulder is working towards the right toe, creating an offset scenario in which the lower body is in fact closer to the target than the upper body. This would be a turn in flexion and the absolute opposite to the motions of a reverse pivot. It could be also very helpful to set up to the ball, place the ball in between the left thigh and the wall, and make sure that the ball does not drop as you perform high rates of rotation lower, upper and lower body, still trying to move the left shoulder towards the right toe. After rehearsing that a couple of times, it is time to take that to the club. Still, don't use a ball yet. Get yourself in front of the mirror, try to repeat the same motion and the same feeling with the club in your hand. If you feel comfortable with that, go ahead and hit some small shots with it. I hope you liked the video and I was able to create some clarity regarding the reverse pivot. If you still have any questions, just feel free to use the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. Take care.